Well, a very, very happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is December 29th of 2025. I hope everyone had themselves a wonderful holiday weekend, wherever you guys were at, wherever you guys, or however you guys celebrated. I hope you guys had a fun and fulfilled holiday. I know I did, but, we're back at it again. It was a long weekend. And I got to tell you, it's one of those weekends when you're, it's one thing to have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. It's another thing to have Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. But when you give yourself a 5-day weekend, it kind of throws you off a bit, to be honest. I was trying to all right, well, what's good to talk about today? I'm missing out because there's a lot of sports happening. There's basketball, there's football, wrestling is still going on. How do you stay in the media content creations while you're on this so-called, holiday break? And it could be a bit deceiving, and you can learn, for anyone else who does a podcast, this as good as I know. If you miss one episode, you miss one day, and you're not on top of your game 24/7, all of that work that you did prior kind of starts going out the window. So, I'm glad to, as much as I had myself a fun time, I'm glad to be back at it, down here talking sports with you guys. I had a great Christmas, really felt peaceful in my opinion. It was me, my wife, her sister, my son, had a couple extra, my other kids come over the weekend, celebrated Christmas. But it was a fun time. It was a relaxing time. I didn't feel over pressured. I didn't feel like there was an obligation that had to be fulfilled on the day of. We woke up in the morning, got a chance to open up the presents with my son, take our time, and just kind of go throughout the day enjoying our holiday. We watched the Disney parade. We got a chance to watch a little bit of football. We actually sat down and watched, for the first time, The Journey to Bethlehem. And I thought that was a great movie. So, everyone was, keeping up to date with everything that's going on. And, the overall day was well received. Well, we head into Friday. That was another, just relaxing day, good experience. Over the weekend, watched one of the kids. We ran into a conundrum Saturday because one of the kids is presents that you have to charge in order to operate. Well, it wasn't holding a charge, and we're like, we got this back at the beginning of November, and they've been looking forward to this all holiday season. They didn't go pressure us. So can I ride this now? Can I play with this now? It's understanding, hey, I'm going to be patient and my time will come. Just to come to find out that the item did not hold a charge. So we had to return it, take it back to the store. We had to order another one, and that won't be in until Friday. So, she has to wait a whole another week, because by the time we get it, we got to open it, charge it again. Hopefully this time it holds a charge. And if that's the case, then we're capable, she's capable of actually using the item. There's so much feelings and emotion that I even get as an adult, just knowing that, she has to encounter something like this and endure something like this. You wait all holiday season to get this item. You wait all of Christmas Day, the day after that. You're patient. You're not pressuring anybody, and it doesn't not want to work. And now you have to wait a whole nother week, while they're off of school. You're probably twiddling your thumbs, counting down the days, the seconds of it until it comes. Hopefully, this time around, this product is not defective and it works. And we're just like, man, I sure hope so too, because it's not a cheap item either. Then the next day, Come to find out that my son's playing in the bathtub and he has one of those kids tablets, and he ends up putting it in his tub, and it goes straight through the motherboard. So it won't turn on, it won't hold a charge. We tried doing the whole rice thing, and it's not necessarily a big deal, but he kind of does enjoy this tablet. I could just imagine at 2 years old not understanding completely, hey, I got this tablet, this electronic, this device, this toy that I really love playing with, I'm just not going to be able to play with anymore. And he doesn't quite understand that. And we do definitely use it. I never really thought I would be one of these parents who would say, I'm going to have my kids on the devices and whatnot. But, it is, it's a product that he does use periodically when it's like, all right, I need you to give me 15 minutes. I need you to give me some time alone to recoup from coming home from work or doing this, or let me give me 10 minutes to cook dinner. And he just doesn't want to get off of you. So this kind of fills in that empty space. Other than those downfalls, I think I had a pleasant holiday. I really enjoyed myself, and I got a chance to enjoy some football. So on today's episode, we will be recapping the NFL Week 17, specifically the Cincinnati Bengals as they took on the Arizona Cardinals yesterday. We will also break down the playoff picture and specifically the 4 teams that are competing for a championship division title and make it to a playoff, in January. We'll cover that. We'll give you a picture of bowl game updates and give you a preview of Monday Night Raw as that returns to live this Monday or tonight at the Kia Center in Orlando, Florida. So first things first, you guys. For those who have been following along, we got our good friends Terry and the crew over at Enlighten Studios. And they are having their upcoming production play called Grassroots, premiering February 20th through March 1st. It's a 2-weekend production, total of 8 films, plays over that course of span. And we want to invite you out for their theater production. In the description below, will be the link to the tickets where you could get your theater production play at. And we encourage you to step out there and say hi to us. I know I will be there. I'm excited. I'm excited for what Enlighten Studios has to offer this 2026 calendar year. They have a lot of events, and we will be exploiting that here on our show throughout the course of the year as they unravel. But Grassroots is a big one. It is about a Black family moving into a white community back in the 90s, where there is a huge bunch of drama and politics and secrets that unfold and expose themselves. And there's a lot of overcoming, just a great play. Can't wait to not even just watch it myself, but to be able to invite you out there to watch it yourself. You guys can get your tickets at tickettailor.com, or you could Google Enlighten Studios Grassroots, or look into the description below where you can get all your needs for Grassroots and your tickets. But get your tickets out there today and get ready for the 2026 season in Enlighten Studios with them and share with them. Alrighty, that came out a lot worse than I expected it to be. I could tell you how prepared I am. Not ready for today's show, but let's get underway. We kick things off with a Week 17 Cincinnati Bengals recap as they took on and defeated the Arizona Cardinals 37-14. And boy, another win, another fun win. I know I said this jokingly last week, and I'm going to say it again this week. Are you having fun? I know I'm having fun to watch these Bengals play. I'm having fun because they're having fun. I could see the fans having fun, which, oh, by the way, the last time that we were at Paycor Stadium, ownership didn't pay employees to remove the snow from the seats. That was so much fun, right? No, we were having fun. Again, it was great watching this team pull together another victory. it almost questions you what they have done this entire season, because this is not the defense that we've seen all year long being able to hold up the Cardinals to 14 points. This is not the season where Chase Brown has ran for 101 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. The fact of the matter is, out of this entire game yesterday, I think the most highlighted point had to be coming out of the 21-yard reception pass from Joe Burrow to Cody Ford. Let me say that again. Joe Burrow to Cody Ford, 21 yards, broke 2 tackles on his 29th birthday. If that's not having fun, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I get it. It doesn't erase the fact that we're eliminated from the postseason. But there are the clear understandings that we had expectations to beat the Dolphins last week, and we did. We had expectations to beat the Cardinals this week, and we did. And now we have the expectations to beat the Browns this Sunday, and we hope to do so. The good news is that we are finishing off the 2025 calendar year with a win, which is always a positive and builds confidence heading into next week. And we have an opportunity next Sunday to begin the new calendar year of 2026 off with a win by beating the Browns. Well, we do know one thing, that the Bengals will finish 7-10, they will finish in 3rd place this year. We don't know the record yet, but they are now 6-10 after a win yesterday, as the Arizona Cardinals moved to 3-13. For the Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett, he went 21 for 37 through 212 yards with 2 touchdown passes. Trey McBride had 10 receptions under 119 yards. He breaks the NFL single season record as a tight end, surpassing Zach Ertz with 116 yards in 2018 and DeAndre Hopkins for 115 yards in 2020. While in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow went 24 for 31. He threw 305 yards with 2 touchdown passes. Chase Brown had 22 carries over 100 yards with 2 touchdowns. Samaje Perine had 3 carries with 5 yards with 1 touchdown. And Jamar Chase, who has not scored a passing touchdown since week 7, he had 7 receptions, a total of 60 yards, and 2 touchdown passes. They had the opening drive that went well over 5 minutes to begin the game, where Joe Burrow threw to Jamar Chase for 13 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase is the first player in NFL history with 80 receptions, 1,000 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns in each of his first 5 seasons. The Bengals improved to 3-2 since Joe Burrow's return. And we can't talk enough about the Bengals play with Cody Ford and Joe Burrow. It was fun. I liked it. Overall, the Arizona Cardinals had a total of 191 passing yards, 42 rushing yards for a grand total of 233 total yards. While for Cincinnati, they had 309 passing yards, 120 rushing yards with a total of 429 yards. Those are the numbers you want to see. Those are the numbers that think, hey, we have some hope next season. I know it's not going to be easy. We got some stuff that we got to figure out. Health-wise, I think is going to be a big issue. But this is the team that we've been waiting for the past 4 to 5 months to finally dominate, especially the games where we should have dominated. And what I like even more about it is that they're not hiding it. Joe Burrow's playing 2-3 quarters at best. They ramp up to an early lead where it's an unwinnable situation, or you really have to fall flat on your feet on the defense. And you throw in Joe Flacco. At least to an argument, which can be debatable this offseason, and I'm already buying into it. But I heard someone on social media say, well, why don't you just bring back Joe Flacco as your backup quarterback? Now, I'm going to leave that conversation open for people to talk about this offseason, but it is a serious, I don't know how serious Joe Flacco is. I don't know where he's at in his career. I think if he is available and willing to play, if he's acceptable to being a backup quarterback to Joe Burrow, then I think it would be logical, or it'd be at least reasonable, for the Bengals to have a open conversation with Joe Flacco and bringing him back as a backup quarterback. For me, as of right now and how I feel about the situation, Joe Flacco, I think, is a better option than Jake Browning. I don't know what happened to Jake Browning this year, but it really throws in some red flags in the direction that we have for our backup quarterback. And I think it needs, heading into this offseason, that could be at least one of the questions on this table for the Bengals is, what do we do at the backup quarterback position? So there's a lot to talk about there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was at least a conversation about what we would do if we had to replace Joe Burrow. I don't want to, but it's notorious. Statistics have shown that Burrow has gotten hurt, and I think we need to not only, protect our most valuable player, but we need to be able to have a plan B. So if our most valuable player gets hurt, we have a least liable second string quarterback that could step into his position. That's my opinion. But it's good to see Joe Flacco out there getting some playing time. I'm sure that if next Sunday, the same results happen against the Browns, we will see Joe Flacco in at some point in the game. And I would be perfectly fine with that. But that would be a question for the offseason. Arizona Cardinals coming up here in Week 18 will be heading over to SoFi Stadium and taking on the Los Angeles Rams, while the Bengals host the Cleveland Browns. Now, let's remember that the Browns lost to the Bengals. There was a lot of things that went wrong in that game, and it was actually the Bengals who were able to capitalize on the Browns' mistakes, thanks to a missed field goal, which gave the Bengals a win back in Week 1. Well, the Browns aren't obviously playing well, but they have shown some interest of keeping things pretty interesting. Here is my little preview to Week 17, focusing on not one, not two, 4 teams that have a fighting chance for a postseason. Let me paint you this picture. The AFC and the NFC are all up to date when it comes to their who's in and who's out, except for 2 divisions and 4 teams. We start off with the AFC North, and that's going to be the Browns and the Steelers. Well, the Browns could have clinched an AFC North Division championship with one of 2 options. One would have been the Ravens losing to the Green Bay Packers on Saturday, and we'll get to that game here in a moment. The one thing I could tell you is that the second option was that you beat the Cleveland Browns and you clinch yourself. Well, Cleveland continues to fight, continues to impress, and I think this is an impressive win. And Shedeur Sanders, despite maybe the numbers on the stats, should hold his head up high and build some confidence, because he just beat Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as the Browns beat the Steelers 13-6 yesterday. The Browns moved to 4-12. They will finish off in last place of the AFC North. The Steelers moved to 9-7. What do you know? The Steelers are going to end the season with a winning record, but the Browns snapped a 4-game losing streak. First time that the Browns beat the Steelers without allowing them to score a touchdown since December 10th of 2009. This is also the 7th time for Aaron Rodgers in his 256 starts that he hasn't reached the end zone. Shedeur Sanders went 17 for 23 with 186 yards and 1 touchdown pass. Aaron Rodgers, 21 for 39 with 168 yards. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say, Shedeur, hey, go take a lap. No. Aaron Rodgers, is a much better quarterback than that. They didn't play with that. They played without DK Metcalf, obviously, who is serving this suspension. But still, a team who has not found their way this season, trying out different quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders, you were a afterthought of this organization up until they almost practically forced you out there on the field because they had no other options. And you beat Aaron Rodgers, who is a future Hall of Famer. You beat Mike Tomlin, who is a future Hall of Famer. And you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, who could have locked up a division championship. Instead, you made them fight another week in the NFL. I'd say that's a good enough job, in my opinion. And You should be proud of yourself. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about this, and he was actually rooting for the Baltimore Ravens to win this division because growing up, he had John Harbaugh, who kind of scouted him in his football days. And so he kind of has this, tie with Baltimore because of John Harbaugh. And I understand that, but my understanding and my opinion towards wanting the Steelers to win, and let's face it, I don't want the AFC North to win if it's not the Bengals, but my understanding was that, hey, Mike Tomlin's a future Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer, despite contracts, despite the future. All we know is right now. And we could win another, they could win another division. And if this would be the last season that Mike Tomlin coaches football, if this is the last season that Aaron Rodgers plays football, I believe in when you pay your dues and you deserve a walk off into the sunset, that you should get it. I truly believe that. So for me, I think that Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, as good as they are, if this is it, because I can't tell you what tomorrow holds, but if this is it for them, winning a division championship and having at least the opportunity of going back to a Super Bowl by competing in the playoffs is the perfect sunset I can imagine for them to compete with. So this is kind of why, if I had to choose between the Ravens and the Steelers, I would choose the Steelers for this purpose. Now, I don't want them to win. This is for a purpose matter here. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers, they didn't get their job done on Sunday. So now they have to wait. Now that we go back a day, I know we're kind of go back in timelines here, but the Baltimore Ravens took on the Green Bay Packers. And a lot of people thought, there's no Lamar Jackson. He's dealing with the back injury. There's no Jordan Love. He's dealing with the concussion protocol. Well, I thought Green Bay at least had a good chance of winning. No. And let's face it, because the one thing I told my friend yesterday, I was like, look, the Ravens have been all over the place. They've been inconsistent. They haven't been synced together. But I do tell you, when they are synced, they are synced. They have top elite players. I mean, even out of Tyler Huntley, who went 16 for 20, only 107 yards with 1 touchdown, compared to his opposing quarterback in Malik Willis, who went 18 for 21 with 288 and a touchdown. Star of the game had to be Derrick Henry, who went 36 carries for 216 yards, 4 touchdowns. So the ground game worked. Defense couldn't stop Derrick Henry. And you almost now feel that the Ravens, who is survived to live another week, they head into this Week 18 game, which, by the way, they are they are actually in Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. They moved to 8-8. The Packers moved to 9-6-1. And now we have a winners take all moment. So we don't know the status of Lamar Jackson. There is a possibility that he will miss Week 18. So it could be Tyler Huntley versus Aaron Rodgers. If the Ravens look to last and look to keep things alive in playoff possibility, which right now it's kind of hard not to figure that they're evenly matched up. You have Derrick Henry, who's your probably top offensive player, who is playing, but you also have Lamar Jackson, who's your kind of top tier quarterback, who's out, and then you got DK Metcalf's out. So it's kind of offsetting with each other, but it's going to be a winners take all. Now remember Pittsburgh, who lost back in the first meeting that they had? Pittsburgh won the first meeting that they had, but in division-wise, we're looking for the winner of this Sunday. Well, it's actually going to be Sunday night if you think about it, because these two teams will be the final game of the season as they take on each other at 8:20 p.m. on Sunday night on NBC. So the spotlight's all under them. Now, on the other side of the conference, a comeback team in the Carolina Panthers, who ended up losing to the Seattle Seahawks 2010, was thankful enough that the Buccaneers lost to the Miami Dolphins 20-17. So Carolina still holds that first place position with an 8-8 record, as Tampa Bay still holds a 7-9 record, 1 game back. Well, coming up this Sunday on ABC at 4:30, the battle of the NFC South Division lurks, as Carolina will be taking on Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Raymond J. Stadiums. So if you took anything away from Week 17 from Cincinnati, And, all the other teams have kind of clinched and, clinched playoff berth. Maybe we're just trying to finalize seeding placement. And we could have that conversation tomorrow. The scenarios have broken down with the AFC North and the NFC South division, as the battles of those divisions will conclude in Week 18. To be honest, no other games matter in Week 18 unless you're worried about where do you sit and if you have a chance to have the first round bye or who your opponent's going to be in the wild card weekend. Yet these four teams can't even worry about that until they determine who's going to win the division. So that is your Week 18 or Week 17 little recap. We'll talk more later on this week. Alrighty, well, let's jump into college football, as it's been a long week and we still have a lot more games going ahead. And I know with the NFL season wrapping around, with the holidays getting preoccupied with everything that's going on, it can be not premature, but you can kind of get lost in the way of college football. Well, there's still bowl games going on. So let me share with you what has taken place so far here in Bowls 18. You can find this, and I will leave a description in the link below on cbssports.com. We'll kick things off. Military Bowl, where East Carolina beat Pittsburgh 23-17. In the Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State beat Clemson 22-10. That was at Yankee Stadium. At the Fenway Bowl in Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts, Miami beats UConn 41-16. BYU beats Georgia Tech at the Pop-Tart Bowl 25-21. Fresno State beat Miami, Ohio 18-3 at the Arizona Bowl. North Texas beats San Diego State 49-47 at the New Mexico Bowl. Virginia beats Missouri 13-7 at the Gator Bowl. Texas Bowl, you had Houston beating LSU 38-35. Central Michigan loses to Northwestern 34-7 at the Game Above Sports Bowl. At the Rate Bowl, Minnesota beat New Mexico 20-17 in overtime. I've even checked if they were overtime here. First Response Bowl, we had UTSA takes on FIU. California loses to Hawaii at the Hawaii Bowl 35-31. 24-22 or 27-22. Louisville beats Toledo in the Boca Raton Bowl. Western Kentucky beats Southern Miss 27-16 at the New Orleans Bowl. And UNLV loses to Ohio at the Frisco Bowl. So if you guys are Ohio fans or in Northern Kentucky in our little demographic range, we took 3 out of 4 in our games in bowl games. The game that is currently going on at the time of this recording here, Georgia Southern and Appalachian State are taking on each other in the Birmingham Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama. In Week 19, next weekend, this actually starts tomorrow at 2 p.m., available on ESPN, a series of games as we have Central Carolina taking on Louisiana Tech, Tennessee taking on Illinois at 5:30. Let me back up here. Independence Bowl is Louisiana Tech hosting Central Carolina or Coastal Carolina. Music City Bowl, Illinois hosts Tennessee at 5:30. 9 p.m., you have the Alamo Bowl where USC takes on TCU. On Wednesday at noon, you have Iowa takes on Vanderbilt at Raleigh Quest Bowl. We have 2 p.m. in Sun Bowl with Duke and Arizona State. The Citrus Bowl, which is Michigan taking on Texas at 3 p.m. The Las Vegas Bowl, we have at 3:30 p.m. Nebraska taking on Utah. At 7:30 p.m., we have the Cotton Bowl, Miami taking on Ohio State. And on New Year's Day, we will have Oregon taking on Texas Tech at the Orange Bowl at noon. Alabama takes on Indiana at 4 at the Rose Bowl. Sugar Bowl will be Ole Miss versus Georgia at 8 p.m. On Friday, you'll have Rice versus Texas State at the Armed Forces Bowl. The game that we're going to be watching and paying attention to is the 4:30 p.m. Navy versus Cincinnati at the Liberty Bowl. At 8 p.m., we have Arizona taking on SMU, the Holiday Bowl, and Duke Mayo Bowl. Wake Forest takes on Mississippi State at 8 p.m. That's all available in the link of the description below in NCAA football bowl games and now college football playoffs. So before we get into our final segment of today's episode and we talk some professional wrestling, I like you guys to interact with us. I love the interaction I get on all social media platforms, good or bad. I'm here to grow and I'm going to learn. I want to learn. So give me all your information you got. Teach me something new so I could be a better podcaster, talk show host, whatever you want to call it, here on our show. If you guys want to reach out to me personally, you can reach out to me on our TNC Sports Talk Facebook page, DM me there, as well as our YouTube page. Those are the two biggest websites. I know also TikTok. As I become more active and productive, you can reach out to me on those websites. It's just, let's talk sports. I'm not perfect. I'm going to get some things wrong. I'm going to try to do my best to get them all correct. But, we are here to talk sports and have fun. That's all it is. All right. Tonight, we have Monday Night Raw. They are back live action again. Over the last 2 weeks, they've had some recordings done for the holiday season. Well, they are back tonight at the Kia Center in Orlando, Florida. Monday Night Raw to finish off the year, as they have a couple highlighting things going on. Let's go ahead and review them. Kicking things off, Division kicks off Raw tonight as they are set to address the conversation of Braun Breaker versus CM Punk for that World Heavyweight Championship. Rey Mysterio will take on Austin Theory in single competition. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee will defend their World Tag Team titles against the Usos. And Stephanie Vaquer will defend the Women's World Championship against Nikki Bella and Raquel Rodriguez in a triple threat match. Pretty decent card. I am excited there's a couple of moving pieces. So one of the questions that I think we want to pay attention to heading into Raw is what's next for Jay and Jimmy Uso? I know they have briefly reunited. They have an upcoming tag team championship match, but it kind of seems to a lot of people, including myself, that Jay Uso may be possibly hinting a heel turn at some point. And that will be interesting to see how it develops, if it develops with a faction or a solos run, and what that could do for a boost in his career. I feel like, I feel like two guys on this roster that really, they get the spotlight, immediately gets taken away from other people, and their ceiling is not that as great. It could be endless, but it's hard to give them that push. And that's going to be Jay Uso and LA Knight, of two really great talented men that bring a lot to the table. But every time they seem to climb that ladder, someone else steps up and it gets taken away. So, like I said, there is a possible hint of a anticipation for a heel turn for Jay Uso. Is tonight the night that we see that happen? My interesting story that I'm looking into tonight is to see how this Austin Theory development works. He revealed himself as the mystery man a few weeks ago. He then has a confrontation with Paul Heyman to kick off Raw last week, where he has this new vision and is part of the vision. And then it led into him helping and winning the Vision's tag team match last week, pinning Rey Mysterio. Now he has a single match against Rey. For me, does Austin Theory fit the Vision and what direction they're going? Because they already have Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul, who's the most sassiest person, on planet Earth. So I love watching those two developing stories unfold here tonight on Raw. Stephanie Vaquer defends her women's title. Raquel Rodriguez is involved. Another storyline that I'm also kind of paying attention to is this: since the return of Liv Morgan, yes, we saw Dominic Mysterio lose a title, win the title. Liv Morgan returns, and now there's more of an emphasis of the Judgment Day wanting to recapture gold. Does that also continue tonight with Raquel, or does that get put on hold down the road? So tonight, Netflix Raw, don't miss it. End of a season. We begin next year this Friday on SmackDown. So a couple quick stories that have came up here in the wrestling conversation. Last week, I've had the conversation. I've asked the question, was Austin Theory's Mystery Man reveal too early for the WWE? And I've got some interesting responses, a little bit on both sides of the field, a little bit neutral. Some people just don't care. I've kind of spoke a little bit about this last week, but I kind of want to reiterate a little bit heading into Monday Night Raw tonight. And that is, I believe that they did not fully operate this Mystery Man and took advantage of what this had to come with. I felt it was way too soon. If you think about this Mystery Man debuting back at Survivor Series, costing CM Punk and his team the Survivor Series match, it had the indication that this Mystery Man was after CM Punk, maybe after the World Heavyweight Championship. And, that was going to be a personal food. The following the following Monday on Raw, we saw him, go after guys like Rey Mysterio and Jey Uso. That shift attention. I feel like this reveal was a poor timing. We're right before holiday season. We were right before, nothing much exciting was going to happen. And I feel like it kind of went flat very quickly. Like I said, my opinion, you may not agree with it, but if I was to write this Mystery Man's story, this would have been a perfect leverage for a WrestleMania bout and for heading into WrestleMania season. We don't know who this guy is. We don't know if he's part of the Vision. We don't know if he's not part of the Vision, but we don't know his identity. Heading into this new year, he could have sat there and maybe got involved into the Braun Breaker CM Punk match. He could have got involved into a Royal Rumble match. He could have led down the Elimination Chamber. It could have led to a WrestleMania match, which at some point, or maybe even at WrestleMania, we finally get the revealance of who this guy was. I feel the build-up could have been better. And I just think within a 2-week time period, maybe WWE didn't see it working out. But I don't feel like it did much for Austin Theory in this push that they clearly looks that they're trying to give him. So for me, I think it was way too early. I thought there could have been a better storyline that could have extended out through WrestleMania season, would have been a top story, especially the longer and the week after week after week after we see this stuff, his sabotagement, his involvement take place. I would have liked to see that, play out a little bit more. The other thing that is lurking this week heavily on the wrestling radar is the future and possible return of Chris Jericho into the WWE. This article that will be posted in the link below is from WrestlingInc.com. That Chris Jericho has been a hot topic in the industry over the past few months, reemerging yesterday as Jericho could be back in the WWE as soon as next week, the first episode of Raw in the new year. Before that news broke, it appearing on his own live stream, Jericho responded to a fan who brought up the topic while expressing how important his 1999 WWE debut was to him. Jericho said, and I quote, "Thank you for watching the 99 debut at your grandparents' house. Hoping you make your WWE return. Well, you never know. Right. You never know." Several weeks back, Jericho confirmed that he will be back in the wrestling ring next year, maintaining that he isn't done with the industry yet. He's just trying to figure out things. At the time, he didn't specify whether he was going to be with WWE or not. There's also indications that his contract with AEW is coming up at the end of this calendar year. Despite Jericho's being vague or outright avoiding the question, some veterans like Diamond Dallas Page firmly believes that he'll be returning to the WWE next year's Royal Rumble. Some people are rumoring whether he will return next week on Raw or whether he will return at the Royal Rumble or before WrestleMania. One of the biggest conversations is that this could be his retirement run. Well, just like we saw John Cena coming up last year, retiring earlier this month, AJ Styles makes the plan to retire at the end of 2026. There is a rumor going around about Rey Mysterio at the near end of his career as well as the Hardys. Diamond Dallas Page even went publicly declared that he is willing to bet $100,000 that the veteran will be at the major premium live event. Others like Matt Hardy took more logical approach to Jericho's next move, as Hardy noted that he believed AEW had their share of him in many years and what he has creatively done everything that he can do in the promotion. When it comes to WWE, Hardy thinks that it will be a huge moment and a big deal for the WWE, but Jericho has always known to go away and return. So that was posted on, like I said, Wrestling Ring. Look, I think wrestling has their own preference to their own. I know they have their own preference to what product they like, and I completely get that. Jericho has moved from WCW to WWE to AEW, and he reminds me he's one of the pioneers, in my opinion, to WCW, just like Cody Rhodes were. And sometimes you listen. Your job is to leave the company the better way you found it. John Cena has done that. Cody Rhodes has done that. I believe Chris Jericho has done that. He's given the room for people to step in and thrive AEW style. There is a different kind of wrestling when it comes down to WWE. Now, when you leave a company, the assumption is for me is that you become wiser and you can have more to offer. And I only think that, the intelligence of Chris Jericho and what he's been able to accomplish with AEW in that creativity department can only carry over to success in the WWE. I think he has a great mind. I think he's successful in any promotion he's in. And the WWE will listen to him, especially since considering that this will be under new ownership of Paul Levesque. I personally wouldn't mind seeing a Chris Jericho return to the WWE. I would like to see maybe a 2-3 year deal if he still has that in him. Obviously, it maybe be more of selective and short-term basis, and that's fine. Whatever Chris Jericho chooses to do, there's no hard feelings. He's went out there, he's made a name for himself in the WWE and off the market. This company has grown, this industry has grown so much since then that we have to allow that to happen. So would I like to see him in the WWE? Absolutely. Could I see it work? Yes. But wherever he goes, just remember that is right now, I think at this point of his career, where we're at in wrestling, it's the support of whatever decision he makes, because he's going to make something out of it. So that is the rumors around professional wrestling. Don't forget, we have Monday Night Football as the Rams take on the Atlanta Falcons. Monday Night Raw. Quick insight. A couple of things I want you guys to think about heading into next week, because we have a short week this week. We will be providing a podcast for you today, obviously. Tomorrow, December 30th and December 31st, will be off the rest of the week, as that is a 4-day weekend. We will resume our 5-day show as normal starting January 5th on our channel. A couple of topics we want to start thinking about for next year are going to be New Year's resolutions, on how quickly we could break those resolutions. We'll go over events, venues, things that we are planning to promote and get involved with next year. We will also talk about getting the 2025 reflection behind us, talking about our top moments. So I want to hear down in the comments of what were your top 5 matches in WWE, or who were your top 5 male or females in the WWE of 2025? Who was your most improved wrestler? Who was your least improved? Things like that. We will have a little bit more details come next week about those topics, but those are one things that we want to think about as we get into the 2026 calendar year. Well, that is all the time I have for you in this episode today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, wherever you guys are watching us from or listening to us from. Maybe was one of our audio platforms. I want to thank you. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Be sure to have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. And until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and you guys have